Okay, good morning or good evening, everyone. Welcome to our presentation on the Ugandan and counterpart of the Coffee Exchange program. Over the next 15 minutes, we'll share what we did and what profoundly changed our understanding of coffee trade, sustainability, and fairness. So please, next slide, Johannes. I brought some impressions of the group. It was a real perspective shift for us, and the encounter also influenced how we approach coffee and the industry and politics behind it going forward. So let me introduce you to our group. Briefly, we are participants in the Coffee Exchange program, and all of us are either students or young professionals, all with a background in agriculture or supply chain or the business sector in general. And please, the next slide. Before arriving in Uganda, we had certain expectations. We thought we'd observe coffee farming, understand some challenges, and maybe learn about the different certifications or stuff like that. But what actually happened was way more exciting. Our assumptions about what sustainability means, what fair looks, and how labor and community functions in the coffee production was changed a lot, and also the labor intensity observations were a key part. So I brought mostly pictures from that part, so we could all do that during our internships at the farm, and all the other impressions are presented to you by my colleagues.
Yes, thank you. Our second or another excursion was at the National Coffee Research Institute, NaCORI, at Kituuza, Mukono district. And yeah, first of all, we had a small welcome round and a group discussion, where we talked about the main challenges in the coffee sector, like new laws, the volatile coffee prices, and common diseases. And then we had a guided tour through the laboratory where we saw the production of new coffee varieties from the test tube to the nursery bed. And that's the second photo. There we are in the laboratory. And the third photo is at the nursery bed where they plant the new varieties for further duplications. Next slide. And what we learned there is that the laboratory can produce up to 1 million new seedlings in a time from 9 to 12 months if the power is there. And after that, the new varieties, they get planted in the nursery bed, and then they always multiplicate the new varieties with taking new suckers of the plants. And how does the whole process work? The new varieties get planted there, and when they are strong and big enough, and they take new smaller plants, and then they get planted again and again, and so they can maximize the number of the seedlings. And they mainly produce new varieties of Robusta and Arabica variety coffees, but they also produce they add value in the later steps of the value chain, like they do coffee lotions, creams, and soaps, and something for consumption. Next slide. And why it's important that we visited the point, it shows us that it's important to have strong and healthy coffee plants to produce good coffee qualities of green beans. And also the main focus on our visit there is to produce new varieties that are dwarf and climate change resistant. And yes, the important point is that it's financial for the farmers, and also to find the path between innovation and proven systems. Yes.
And we also had another excursion at NUCAFE, which was the National Union of Coffee, Agribusiness and Farm Enterprises. So when we visited them, we had a small introduction meeting where we were also able to ask our questions and get some answers to our questions. And then we had a guided tour at their facilities. And at the end, we finished it off with seeing the roasting process and doing a bit of a coffee tasting. So what did we learn here? The main point was for us to learn the NUCAFE's role, especially how they connect with farmers and what kind of a role they play in the coffee business in Uganda. We learned that they're trying to increase the value addition, to increase the incomes of the farmers by helping them do the roasting facilities and cleaning processes and help them in a way so that the farmers won't be selling their coffee as green beans. And how does it work? They're trying to provide some services for the farmers. And also, the second most important part they play is they're trying to get rid of the middlemen to get more fair prices for the farmers. So they mainly have 5 stages of how they do it. So they also have farmers on the delivery and intake stage where they are also helping on the transportation of the coffee to their own facilities for the farmers who need some help on this process. And secondly, they're doing the quality grading. So beans are being selected and filtered and cleaned. And then they move it to the industrial processing process, which is the value addition place part. So they do the destoning and the drying processes and sorting the coffee beans. And then in the end, they move the coffee to the roasting facility they had. And they do the roasting processes, they do the cupping. So they also give the farmers an information about what kind of coffee they have. And in the end, they enable market access to farmers by getting rid of the middlemen, and they try to connect farmers to some national or international coffee buyers to give them a good price. So at the end of this visit, we kind of learned NUCAFE's supports and efforts for Ugandan farmers. And it was good for us to see the whole machinery process and the big facilities which are responsible of the whole process of the coffee production, and we gained more information about the cupping process when we also tasted some samples after the roasting.
Thank you, Zainab. So now we will move to the last visit. That is the one that we did at the Kibinje Coffee Farmers Cooperative Society. And we selected all the previous one among the ones that we did in Uganda as like the best ones that stayed more with us. And we started this visit with an introduction with the manager of the cooperative, which was really insightful. Then we had a tour around the facilities. They showed us the hulling machinery, the roasting, the grading part, and also the storing. Then we had a demonstration of quality assessment, as you can see here in the picture, with the employee of Kibinji all dressed in green, and she was selecting the defective beans in this picture. And then we added to a short field visit, the field owned by Kibinje Cooperative. And there we managed to see how breeding of different coffee varieties function. And it was really interesting. Then we also learned, next slide. Yes, you can see here in this picture the different leaves of the different coffee varieties. So like slightly different, but still they own like really different properties. They are more, some that are more drought resistant, some that are more productive or more resistant to pest. And also we learned how different flavoring profiles of coffee works. You can see here in this colorful round. thing, and it was really challenging, as you can imagine, all this little coffee profiling. And also we learned about fair trade and fair trade premiums and how they are used in practice from the cooperative and how does the whole process work. So Kibinje received the production from the farmer, the coffee produced from the farmers, and then it processes them, it dries, then they are sorted and also graded and give it different flavor profiles. And then once the coffee is ready, they are sold under the Kibinje brand, either to local or international buyers that are interested. To end, I want to say why this visit was important for us. It showed us the whole seed to cup value chain that we were mentioning also before. And also it was really interesting to see how the fair trade premium is used in practice. For instance, to pay for some school fees of children of members of the cooperative, or to build wells where they are needed among the community. And also it gave us a lot of perspective when we visited the fair trade company in Germany in the second encounter and how it's strongly related with the SDG 8. Also, we learned really in depth the whole quality grading and breeding of different coffee varieties. That was really interesting. I give the word to Katerina for the closing remarks of our encounter.
Yes, thank you. Hello, everyone. I will tell you a bit about how the encounter shaped our tandem work. So for us, it was the first time in Uganda and seeing the whole coffee production process. This influenced directly how we could also work in a tandem, because before that, a lot of what we knew about coffee was only based on theory and what we learned in our studies or what we see as consumers. So by being there and talking to farmers and standing on the farms, seeing the daily routines, it made everything more real for us. And it also helped us to ask better questions, choose more specific proposal topics, and just generally understand the challenges that our tandem partners deal with more clearly. So we started noticing small things that we maybe wouldn't think about otherwise. For example, how stressful drying can be when the weather suddenly changes. That wasn't something abstract for us anymore. It was something that we, or some of us, saw on the farm actually happening. And that's how one tandem got the idea of working on more reliable post-harvest drying. Some of us spend time in a cafe, and there you realize how much depends on the way coffee is presented, how customers experience it, and that influenced one tandem that now focuses on customer experience and barista training. We also learned about certifications and standards, how important they can be, and understanding that led to one group deciding to work step by step on getting a certification process started. And also for one tandem, the encounter even changed their original idea. So they first wanted to focus on opening a cafe with an in-house roastery, but after the excursions and discussions, they shifted their focus now to strengthening seedlings and supporting farmers through cooperatives. So in the end, none of these ideas came out of nowhere. Each can be traced back to something that we actually experienced during our encounter.
Now I will come to what we take with us in general. So our key takeaways was that the global coffee system is still shaped by strong power imbalances, and market access depends not only on the quality, but on networks, on regulations, logistics, and also on bargaining power. And the Ugandan coffee has a very high quality potential. We experienced a clear gap between European regulatory expectations and the realities in Uganda. For example, when it came to infrastructure and transport, that challenges the compliance, for example, and makes it a big difficulty. We also observed limits in governmental support and a lack of trust in the sector, which reduces participations in quality labs and seed support programs, for example. And we had the possibility to see the community-based versus individualistic approaches and the experience of the power balance, firsthand, and also the market access challenges firsthand. But for me, the most impressive part was that we could experience the optimism and also the resilience despite those tough conditions. And yeah, that was our key takeaway. Thank you for listening.